Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Johns Hopkins School of Education, Doctor of Education, focusing on the problem of practice and executive sponsor virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also here with me, I have my colleague from the Office of Admissions, and she will introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tanya McMillan, and I am an admissions coordinator here at the School of Education.
Also presenting today, we have faculty lead of the Doctor of Education program, Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw. And before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take a second to see if your mic is on mute and video is off right now. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. During the Q&A session, we request that all attendees ask general questions on the problem of practice and the role of the executive sponsor. Any detailed questions that require a one-on-one conversation, we ask that you fill out the contact form, which will be sent via email with the recorded video. Next, I would like to share the agenda for today's presentation. Dr. Shaw will do a quick program overview of the Doctor of Education program, and then she will go into the details of the problem of practice and the role of an executive sponsor. And lastly, we will open up the floor for questions at the end. And for faculty introduction, Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw is an assistant professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Dr. Shaw received her Doctor of Education from the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Dr. Shaw is extensively trained in family systems therapy and educational neuroscience. She also has direct experience as head of school within an AMI-based Montessori school framework. Dr. Shaw's work has focused on translating research from multiple areas of neuroscience, educational psychology, sustainability education, and family systems research into school design and classroom practice. And at this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Shaw.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program. So our program vision is that the EdD program here at Hopkins is designed to impact complex educational problems across the globe by preparing education practitioners to think critically about problems within their education environment and develop the deep understanding and insights to lead positive, sustained change within those educational contexts. Our mission is that exceptional education practitioners will engage with an internationally renowned faculty to cultivate and practice curiosity, critical discourse, and perspective taking in a unique and rigorous course of study, using the lenses of social justice, systems thinking, appropriate research methods, and empirical inquiry. So the Doctor of Education degree is ideal for experienced practitioners who seek to analyze and critique educational practice and research from a social justice and systems perspective, those who seek to apply relevant methodologies to address critical challenges in education, those who seek to integrate research and practice-based knowledge to develop research-informed decisions and opinions about educational experiences, processes, policies, and institutions. And finally, those who seek to communicate effectively to diverse audiences about educational research, experiences, processes, policies, and institutions. So at a glance, the program requirements include a minimum of 90 graduate credits beyond the bachelor's degree. So a master's degree is required. It's typically 30 to 36 credits. Up to 36 credits are transferred automatically with potential for 6 additional credit hours to be transferred in. There's a minimum of 48 credits that must be completed at Hopkins. For fall 2023, we have 4 areas of interest. We have the entrepreneurial leadership in education, mind, brain, and teaching, instructional design and online teaching and learning, and urban leadership. Something to note about these areas of interest. For the first thing, for those who have already completed a mind, brain teaching certificate, graduate certificate, really will not be taking courses within this particular area of interest within the EdD program. The way that we are working areas of interest now is that you can say on the application that you have a particular area of interest, but we are allowing students to take courses across areas of interest. So you really have an opportunity to kind of modify and create your own area of interest. So for instance, if you're interested in entrepreneurial leadership, you also may be interested in combining that with some mind brain teaching courses. So you have that opportunity now. Our program features rigorous, relevant, and systematic and social justice perspectives, communicating research and modalities other than scholarly writing. We have a 4-year program to allow for focus on process. Though there are products that you will create in the program, process is extremely important. There's our instruction is online, asynchronous, but there is also synchronous support. And our students participate in doctoral dossier research. So they are doing doctoral dossier within their coursework. So their research is, there's time for research on their doctoral dossier within their coursework, is what I'm trying to say. So this is a big question that comes up. How do I identify a problem of practice? Here's some things to consider. Your problem of practice should be directly observable. So what is it that you see in your context? It should be something that is actionable, strategic, and potentially transformational. So you may want to ask yourself, what have you observed in your organization that might potentially limit the effectiveness of the educational organization in which you do your professional work? So what have you observed, and what issues have you observed that, if addressed, might improve the lives or the experiences of other individuals within that organization? So your application POP statement should be a succinct document that delineates the broad problem in society. There should be some evidence of this broad problem within research that you articulate, and you should also discuss how this problem manifests itself within your professional context. So you want to state the broad problem in society. You may want to begin with an introductory or explanatory sentence. You may want to provide at least 3 evidential statements of the problem, including citations. So these are statements that provide evidence that the problem exists in various forms. You want to state how this big problem manifests itself in your professional context. And you may outline the factors associated with this problem. So what are the potential factors that are contributing to this problem? And state how this problem fits within your selected EdD area of interest. Keep in mind that, notice that what we're asking you to do is to really look at a problem, not propose a solution, but to consider a problem that you have observed provide evidence that the problem exists in various forms within the research literature, and identify some factors that may be contributing to this problem. So again, we're not asking for a specific solution. So some other questions to consider as you write your POP statement. Again, what issue have you observed? How is this issue problematic? Are there data available to illustrate the evidence of this issue? How is this problem playing out in your professional context? And what is the part of the POP that you think you will be able to impact for the purpose of improvement in your professional context? So this is keeping in mind that problems of practice are generally highly complex and are parts of complex systems. So there may be just a part that you may think about how it could be improved in some way. So here are some problem of practice examples that we have in our program that students have brought to the program. So the first one is achievement disparities among traditionally underserved students, instructional differences between culturally and linguistically diverse populations, low technology use in low-income schools, low use of data-driven decision-making by community college faculty, misinterpretation of student evaluations of teaching, and high levels of reported stress in undergraduate speech-language pathology students. So these are just some examples. So for some FAQs here, what is the relationship between the student's context of professional practice and the EdD program's problem of practice and the dossier? So again, you're looking at a problem of practice that is within your context, something, again, that is observable. And that's the problem that you bring into the program to more closely examine. And so what we really do is we're teaching you how to think like a researcher, even if you don't want to become a researcher, but how to think like one so that you can better examine problems from all different kinds of perspectives using a systems lens and a social justice lens. And based on that examination of that problem that's within your context, you will then develop projects related to your dossier. And one of those projects might just be a very, very deep examination of that problem. And another project may be, here's some sort of applied project that I'm going to do to create that might help the problem in the future. What is the relationship between the problem of practice and a candidate's selected area of interest? So again, you want to talk about how you think this problem is related to your chosen area of interest, keeping in mind again, and we will keep this in mind as we're looking at applications, that you may have a primary area of interest, but you also may want to take courses from other areas of interest. But it's good to think about what you think the connection between the problem of practice and the area of interest may be. Does my problem of practice need to be fully defined in my application essay? This is always a big question. No, not necessarily. What we really just want to see is that you're thinking about a problem, and we want to see how you think about a problem. Does it need to be fully defined? No, because you will fully define and refine your POP once you are admitted to the program. And then finally, must a problem of practice be drawn from my workplace? Well, usually the problem is within our students' context, because if they want to do some empirical work within the context, you need a place to do that. But it's also possible that you may look at a problem more broadly. For instance, so you might look at underrepresentation of commonly underrepresented groups within education. And does it exactly have to be examined within your context. Not necessarily. It depends on the projects that you choose to do for your dossier. So we get a lot of questions about the executive sponsor, and the executive sponsor is essential to the success of each student's achievement. Basically, the role of this executive sponsor is non-instructional, but it is someone from within the student's organization or professional affiliation group who is in a position to help identify potential problems of practice and facilitate access to non-proprietary data and resources. So the executive sponsor role may include, but is not limited to, championing the student's efforts, being an advocate for the student to help gain access to resources within the organization. For example, access to the research site, a target audience, non-proprietary data and records, and helping to identify important issues within the organization. You are asked to provide the name of a sponsor during the application phase, and the sponsor should also serve as one of the two recommendation providers. So what are the responsibilities and time commitment of the executive sponsor? Well, again, this is really just a person who, again, if you want to conduct some research within your context, this person has the authority to grant you access to the site to be able to do that. So that's really the primary responsibility. It is not, though executive sponsors may help you to identify problems, ultimately, this is the student's journey, doctoral journey. And so the executive sponsor does not get to determine ultimately what the student is going to focus on. But you do want support from your organization, particularly if you are going to be conducting research within the organization. Does my executive sponsor require to be my direct manager or supervisor? It depends. So again, if your direct supervisor or manager is the person who's going to grant you access to the site in order to conduct your research, then that's the person who should be your executive sponsor. If it's somebody else, if you need to talk to a district superintendent, if you work in an organization and you need to talk to the CEO, maybe it's that person. So it just depends who really ultimately is going to have the authority to support you doing research within the context, should you choose to do that. Does my executive sponsor require an advanced degree? No, they do not. They do not, because they, again, are not part of your doctoral journey in the sense that they don't have a say ultimately in the work that you're doing here within Hopkins. I am head of my own organization. What are my options for selecting an executive sponsor? Well, if you are head of your own organization, then I think in that instance, you could say, I am the person who has the authority to grant myself the permission, to conduct research within my site. Now, if you're a consultant, however, and you want to conduct research, at somebody else's site, then you actually would contact whoever is head of the other site and have them be an executive sponsor and have them provide the letter. So, yes.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shaw. So we're now moving on to the last part of the presentation today. And just a friendly reminder to ask general questions on the problem or practice and executive sponsor. And if you have any questions that require a one-on-one conversation, we ask for you to fill out the contact form, and that form will be sent in an email with the recorded video. All right, and Dr. Shaw, feel free to kick us off with reading and answering the questions. Thank you.
Sure. So we have a question about somebody is asking, are all of them fully online? I'm not sure. What do out-of-state applicants need to consider? Well, the entire program is online. So I don't think that there's anything that out-of-state applicants really need to take into consideration. We have international students. All the work can be done asynchronously. So I'm not sure if there's any more to that question that I can answer. If I recently resigned from my teaching position, let's see, who could serve as my executive sponsor? So if you don't have a context and you would want to do research within a context, that's a little more difficult. I would wait until you have a new context because again, keep in mind this program is developed for working professionals, so it is assumed that students have a context wherein there are problems that they're taking into consideration within a context. Can we have more than one executive sponsor? If you require more than one in your context, we do not require more than one, but ultimately it would be, again, I think more the person who has the authority to say, yes, you can do research within this context. What is included in the dossier? Research on the problem of practice? Yes. So your dossier, you will do 2 main projects. And those will be research on your problem of practice. So you'll have choices essentially. But the first year, you're basically exploring your problem of practice before you begin doing any research on it. So you're exploring it through the literature and understanding factors that may be contributing to the problem. What if your executive sponsor leaves the organization while you are in the program? We've had this happen to students. As long as the new person is supportive of the work, then that shouldn't be an issue. It's not that we are keeping track of your executive sponsor so much as we are just trying to set the expectation from the very beginning that you will have the support necessary to do any research within your context. I have 2 masters. I see you allow up to 36 credits to be transferred. How long does a program take if you can transfer credits? So the program is 4 years with a master's. So you can only, there's only maybe 6 additional credits for a master's. So it's nice when people have more than one, but we only accept 1. And that's required. And then it's still a 4-year program. What if your executive sponsor leaves the organization while you're in the program? I think I answered that one. Is this program focused on K-12? That's a great question. So it has been traditionally in the past, and that is actually changing. We have a lot of students who are coming from different industries. We have students who are in the fitness industry. We have people who are in the military, but all of these people, the thing that they have in common is that they're responsible for doing some sort of education or training of others. So, but yes, we are very much becoming much wider than just focusing on K-12. Let's see. In the letter of recommendation, how should the executive sponsor address the fact that they will be fulfilling that function? Do they need to provide credentials to that effect? They just need to say that they are aware of what you're doing and they are supporting it. That's basically it. What if you change organizations while in the program? This does happen to quite a few students. So it's not necessarily a huge barrier to completion of the program. some of the research projects that you may be doing don't necessarily require your empirical investigation within your context. So if you're far along and you're exploring a problem of practice, you could choose projects, again, that just don't require that empirical investigation. So that should not hold you back from continuing your work. How many students do we accept each year? That really depends. I don't know what our number is going to be for next year.
I can jump in there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Dr. Shaw, this is Tanya. So we accept on average between 60 and 70 students per cohort year.
Right. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. What if there is no one in our organization that wants to be an executive sponsor? Is there an alternative? I would say that it's going to be difficult if you have, if you're wanting to look at a problem of practice within your organization and you don't have support for that. So, you know, again, they don't have to, all they have to do is to provide the support. So you really need to think about, if you don't have support of your organization, is now the right time. Maybe this isn't the organization to be at when you're doing this program. So that's just something to take into consideration. When writing the POP, does it have to be a problem within your own institution and organization? We generally do prefer that it is something observable within your context. It is not possible to finish it in fewer than 4 years. It is more of a cohort style, yes. Regarding the POP statement for the application, is there a particular citation format that is preferred for citing research? We use APA, just so you know. Those are, we use APA, and that is something that all of our students use. So we don't expect perfect APA on the application statement, but that is something that will be practiced for those who are admitted. Is it possible to collaborate with the School of Public Health in the program? I don't want to say no to that, but I would need to know more about that. I submitted my application. When will the program start? The program always begins in the fall. So the program begins, though we do have an orientation in the summer, but the official courses begin very late August, early September. See, I want to study educational programming and tech. Will that be offered in spring 23? So we are looking at revamping sort of the tech area of interest. And so I don't have any further information on that at this moment. How many credit hours are required to complete the program? It's generally 54. Would any graduate studies after completing my master's degree be able to count towards my doctoral credit hours? No, the master's is required to then do the doctoral work. So the master's, it doesn't, it's 50 to, Tanya, can you help me out with this? Because I can't remember exactly our credit hours.
I'm sorry, which question were you on, Dr. Shaw?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So somebody was asking about credit hours. I know we have a total of 54 credit hours. How many
Okay, so with the, I believe overall to earn the EDD, it is 90 credits, and then your 36 credit master's degree will transfer in. So that would leave 54 credits to be completed at the doctorate level.
Perfect. That's exactly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can the problem of practice change or be modified after being admitted to the program? Yes, that is not uncommon. That definitely can. You have some time to be able to do that. And also note that it does get refined anyway. So a lot of times you'll think that you're coming with a certain problem. And as you begin to really look at the literature and so forth, you realize that the problem is actually different than you originally thought. So that's not uncommon. Is it possible to publish from your dossier work? Yes, actually, it's also potentially what's nice about the dossier approach is that if a student wanted to publish an article, that could actually be one of the projects that they do for their dossier. So it's in fact, you could do it for both projects. So if someone is interested in going into higher education, it's nice to have a couple of publications under your belt. So that's actually something you could do and work on while you're in the program. Is the POP just for the application, or is it something we'll be working on for our dossier? The POP is the thing that you're going to be working on your entire doctoral journey. So it's kind of your sort of focus, but you'll be doing different projects related to that POP, looking at that POP from different lenses and different perspectives from different constituents. When you say your sponsor will give you access, what does that mean? So if you work in a school and you want to conduct research within the school, let's say you want to interview the teachers, you will need access to those teachers on your site. So you need support from your executive sponsor, whoever that may be, who has the ability to grant you that access. Let's see. The executive sponsor has to be within my organization. Yeah, ideally, yes, if that person is going to give you access to your organization so that you can conduct research within your organization. How will we, let's see, sorry, will there be any opportunity to visit and or take some in-person classes at Hopkins? How will we feel belonged? So that's a great question. We do have an in-person residency. Unfortunately, we haven't had in-person residency the last 3 years. We've had to do it virtually because of the pandemic. But next year we should have in-person residency. So that's 3 days where all the cohorts and faculty come together, and that's a really wonderful time. Aside from that, though, we do have opportunities. In fact, I just hosted a student lounge last night for the 2020 cohort. We have upcoming lounges that we're hosting for the other cohorts as well. So thanks to technology, we do a lot to try to bring people together so that they can feel connected. Can you change your POP within the first year if there is another that you find? Yes, you can. Yes, so somebody said, I thought the website says 3 to 7 years for completion. The new program that we're launching next year is just 4 years. So that's based on the old program. So the new program is 4 years. I have a master's in social work. Will that count? Yes. I have a master's in psychology, specifically in family systems therapy, and that worked for this program because I am a graduate of this program. Have you encountered a situation where the organization executive sponsor decided there was a conflict with the student's research after they had already invested a year or two in the program? If so, how would that be handled in the future? Yes, actually, we have a student who did experience that. There was at first support for their research, and then there wasn't support, and then basically the student just sort of pivoted. So it was a problem related to unrepresentation or lack of representation of LGBTQ plus community within schools, and that study was broadened and did not include that student's context, and it ended up being a beautiful, beautiful project. Does this program accommodate government and military context? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by accommodate, but I will tell you that we do have students who work in government and military. So including, the Department of Defense and those types of places. Can you apply if the master's degree is not in the field of education? Yes. Your master's degree does not have to be in education. Should we be concerned that our POP be original? That's a good question. I think I would focus more, rather than worrying about being original, like what do you think is really a true POP? Come from a place of where you feel like this is really what I see and this is what I'm concerned about. Don't worry about someone else judging it and wondering if it's going to be original. I mean, I do appreciate the question, but really just come from a place of, this is what I see and this is what's important to me to examine and to think about what might be done about this. What is the difference between a dossier and a dissertation? So the dossier is a couple of projects as opposed to a dissertation, which focuses on one empirical project, although I will tell you that in the past, our previous dissertation included 2 empirical projects, which is just a lot. So the dossier actually provides a lot more opportunity for students, and it doesn't require that the projects also be communicated in scholarly writing. So if you want to communicate to your constituents via video or audio or something else, if you want to do a podcast, if you want to do other things, it just allows for greater opportunity. At the same time, if your interest is in going into higher ed, you still have the ability to do 2 of your, even if you just did 1 of your dossier projects as a paper to be submitted to a peer-reviewed publication. I'm going to tell you that that's going to be far more meaningful if you're looking for a higher ed job than having done a dissertation. So because what higher ed institutions want to see is that your work can be published. So I think it just opens a lot more opportunities than the traditional dissertation does. And it also allows the research work to be communicated to a much broader audience. So if you're really interested in reaching a certain group of people, and that group of people are not scholars at a university, you can communicate your work to them in a way that is truly meaningful to them. Will I be able to talk to the professor who teaches those areas of interest? Are you asking in advance? I mean, generally, once people are accepted into the program, they're interacting with all of us. So, okay, we have some looking through here. Sorry, we have a lot of questions coming in. I'm not going to get into questions that really are focusing specifically on what you specifically want to do. So give me a moment here. If my MED was 30 credits, how do you fulfill the 36 credit requirement for admission? Tanya, do you have an answer for that?
Trying to unmute myself. Sorry about that. What was the specific question? I'm scrolling down, trying to see where you are, Dr.
If
Shaw.
if my MED was 30 credits, how do you fulfill the 36 credit requirement for admission?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do get that question from time to time. You will have to complete those 6 additional credits at the graduate level prior to being considered for admission. So we need to, of course, see that transcript that does have the 30 credits, but you will have to complete 6 additional credits at the graduate level prior to the cohort starting.
Oh, someone is asking about the difference between an applied dissertation and a dossier style dissertation. So the applied dissertation was our traditional 5-chapter dissertation. It required an empirical investigation of the POP as well as an intervention. The dossier style dissertation does not require the intervention. So it could be an applied project. That's different, however, than the new dossier program, which is we are allowing students to choose the different projects that they want to do. So there's more agency and more choice in the new program. Okay, with the new 4-year program, when will classes take place? So classes will be primarily in fall and spring. Electives may be taken after the 2nd year in the program. And generally students are taking 6 credits each semester. Do you have advice for maintaining the confidentiality of school settings when writing the POP? That's a good question. Yeah, so just really, you can give the school, I mean, you don't have to say the school name. Obviously, though, we're going to know from your application where you are at. But when you're writing the POP statement, you could even give it an acronym, a pseudonym, or something like that, and just don't identify specific people within the school, that sort of thing. Someone is asking, if I applied to a previous cohort and did not gain admission, is it possible to discuss my past application with someone so that I can make my new application more competitive? We don't really do that. We get a lot of requests from students who want to talk to us about their applications, and just from a pure equity standpoint, we really can't do that. I'm sorry. Regarding the POP statement for the application, is this piece of a writing an appropriate place to clarify other parts of the application, or is there another way to give context in writing? The POP statement should just really be about the POP, if that's what you're asking. We don't really provide a listing of past POPs. We really want to know what you think. Like, what do you think is a problem? Beyond our executive sponsor, we signed a committee. No, you will not be assigned a committee, but you will be supported through your work throughout the process, throughout each of the courses. We also have doctoral dossier research courses that will be run. So you'll have support from faculty, you'll have a lot of input from a lot of different faculty, and you'll also have support from your peers, which, believe it or not, is incredibly important to this process. Okay, are all the courses asynchronous? Yes, they are. Is there a specific time progression? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. The cohort progresses together over the 4 years. And yes, there's actually lots of opportunities to collaborate with your peers. I think I answered the rest of these questions. Some of them are very specific. The ones that are specific, I'm not.
All right, Dr. Shaw, I think you answered most of the questions.
I think so.
All right, so it looks like there are no more questions. Thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. And here on this slide, I want to share some important contact information for admissions related questions. Please reach out to Ms. Tanya McMillan. Here is her email address and phone number. And any program related questions, please reach out to the EdD department. And here is the email address. All right, so thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Shaw, for the wonderful presentation.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for coming.